your project, the Gate Towers in Abu Dhabi. Tell me about the design and how that evolved. What drove this design?
Well, the Gate Towers formed part and parcel of the Gate District, and the Gate District was actually a very strong footprint for the Shams Abu Dhabi master plan development. This Shams Abu Dhabi master plan development comprised of some 140 odd plots which were identified for various developers to purchase and build. We then decided that we should be stating the standard and quality by building the first properties in the Shams Abu Dhabi Gate District. The Gate District lends itself to the name that it is the entry to the entire development. So the first properties that we built within the Gate District, which had 3 phases, was the Sun and Sky Towers. And what drove the design of the Sun and Sky Towers and the Gate District was actually the functionality, the ability to frame an entry into the property, and hence the gateway concept was created. We took a very pragmatic approach. We, of course, obtained the early pre-concept sketches, and then we decided that the operational principle of these properties should be put in the forefront. And how did we do that? We actually came up with our building operation statement, how we were going to sell the property, how we were going to configure and cut up the ownership, how we were going to manage the different public realm as well as the common property, and apportion common area maintenance charges. This seemed to be always an issue that is only left right up to the end. I decided to bring it up right at the beginning. So I brought the teams who are going to manage this property for the next 25 to 50 years right at the onset, so that the designers who normally are there for 3 to 5 years, after they see the design completed, they move away. But the people who manage it have to be stuck with the design. So I needed them to come and give their input right at the beginning to make it very functional, and so that the operations of the property was at an optimal level and kept the costs of operation low. So this was a very important fact to make it very marketable and also unique to the market.
Some very good information from them, I'm sure. What kind of advice did they give you?
Well, there were quite a number of issues, and I think prominent in these are, when it comes to common area cleaning, there should be structures that are easy to access. You don't want to have designs that make it very difficult for internal access for cleaning, especially high glass ceiling walls and high glass ceilings and so on and so forth. There were also quite a lot of inputs that relate to the overall efficiency of the gross floor area to the net floor area. And that is very important because, in terms of viability of a product, you're looking at high efficiencies. That allowed us actually in both the phases of the developments, both in the Sun and Sky and the Gate Towers, to reach about 76% efficiency on an overall basis. I think Sun and Sky Towers saw higher efficiency. The Gate Towers also saw a slightly higher efficiency in terms of the functionality of the product.
It's named the Gate Towers, and it's supposed to be a gateway into Abu Dhabi, and it certainly looks that way. What is going on in Abu Dhabi, and how does this fit in with development in the whole city?
The city is very progressive. Under the Abu Dhabi 2030 plan, there are a lot of efforts that have been created to improve the entire infrastructure of the city, as well as position the city as a global capital city. There are a lot of other developments that are ongoing that are destined to make it into a very strong financial center. And our proposition on Shams Abu Dhabi with the Gate development and of course the Sun and Sky and a few other developments that we are carrying out throughout our portfolio is to provide high standard, a high quality, good standard residential, commercial, office, retail product into the market.
What do you see springing up around this in the future? Is this going to stay kind of the iconic gateway? What's going to happen in the future?
It will stay as the iconic gateway. A lot of the other developments that are around it will actually complement it in terms of different architectural styles, but they will be of lower heights and mixed use in nature as well. But certainly frame the rest of Shams Abu Dhabi more in terms of a high-rise community development. I think the key challenge here would be how all these high-rise properties. They won't be super tall, but how these high-rise properties would relate to the horizontal infrastructure. And I think that community basis will keep growing. And that's where we see sustainability in terms of the community aspects, growing in the coming years.
What does this do for the social fabric? How is this going to drive social interaction, the design of this building?
Well, what is happening now is there is a shift to quality. There's a flight to quality. And you're seeing more and more people looking at quality properties to move in, to buy, to rent, to live in. And you're seeing a greater spread of the high density areas within Abu Dhabi to the new extension of the CBD. I think there will be greater interaction between the different communities, both within the existing organic Abu Dhabi island and also the new Reem Island communities.
Why this design, and what were you trying to accomplish with this configuration?
Well, this particular design, together with the Sun and Sky Towers, were intended to make a statement of a gateway into the new Abu Dhabi. And certainly our completion of this development, as it can be seen now, from very far away, you can see this statement being made. It also expresses the modern approach and the modern thought processes that are going on in Abu Dhabi to make it into a global city.
You mentioned the economic viability of tall buildings and super talls. Speak to that just in general, and how economically does this work in Abu Dhabi?
Well, every property needs to be viable. I think not just making an iconic statement, but also the viability and the KPIs, the key performance indicators of the property become very important. In our case, being a public listed company, whatever we do, we have a very strong focus on the return to shareholders. And in the case of Sun and Sky Towers, we did exactly that. We made healthy margins on our property and a good internal rate of returns for the properties that we have retained as recurring income properties. So why has this been viable? Well, we were one of the first to come into the market with the first super tall in Abu Dhabi at that stage, with the Sky Towers coming on stream. In fact, it was made a note. It has made a note in the CTBUH annals as one of the nominees for the super tall properties in 2011. And what we did with both the Sun and Sky Towers is brought a standard and quality that was not seen in Abu Dhabi before, in terms of the amenities that were connected with mixed-use development. And that, of course, immediately captured the imagination of people who were seeking quality and standard real estate. And therefore, you saw a decantering of people into our properties. We then decided to, after setting that standard and quality in the Sun and Sky, we then also decided that when the Gate Towers was going to be completed, or rather the Gate Towers was going to be implemented, we had to keep at par with the standard and quality performed by the Sun and Sky Towers. So the Gate Towers has seen a good pickup. It came into the market during the downturn, so we had to be quite nimble, and we had refocused our end user demand, both in terms of a sale product as well as a rented product. So the viability for the Gate Towers, due to our nimbleness, has enabled us to build up a very strong recurring income asset. At the same time, we also managed to sell a large portion of the properties, almost 50%, to individual owners as well as to corporate entities, and large take-up of corporate entities as well.
That's all I have, unless you have other points that you'd like to make.
No, that's about it. I think in terms of super talls, I think the key issues that need to be mentioned are the management issues, and these key management issues need to be brought out at the onset with the design process. Only then you are able to bring design to meet the bottom line objectives quite clearly. And I think the all-inclusive approach has proved to be quite successful for us. And I would recommend it to anyone who is looking at building super talls.
Good, thank you very much.
Thank you.